All right, welcome back, everyone. So today we're going to take a look at Anvil. I intended on doing more of these, but with the patch being, I like the patch. I've just been playing a game, right? Like, forgive me on that, but I just like to play the game. So I like to do these videos as well. But if I like to play the game more than I like to play to make the videos, it's hard to necessarily come up with content. Or if there's other content that is similar to this already, um, yeah, sometimes I just really get into just playing the game. And so I've been enjoying the alien smuggling, which I may actually include in this little intro part here. With the new mission. I like the new facility. I like soloing it. It is hard, but it's a fun hard to do, and it's good money. So anyway, all that kinds of stuff just makes it more fun to play the game sometimes than it is to actually make the content. Here we get into Anvil stuff here. So what we have is quite a few ships to go over. Additionally, I do want to note really quick, the Terrapin Medic is on, or Medical, the Metapin, or whatever you want to call it. Medical Terrapin is on sale as the War Bond, and that's a good grab because essentially you can get that and put that in with the chain for the Raylan. So if you're interested in the Raylan at all, getting the Medical Terrapin and then a Raylan CCU from the Medical Terrapin for $5 is a steal. So I would definitely pick those up if you're interested. That's something I'll be doing personally. Terrapin may also go on sale later on towards the finale, but for now, the Medical Terrapin is just as good. It's the same price point. So it's something to be aware of. Anyways, let's get into this. So starting off the arrow. So the arrow actually is fairly meta right now, and I'll leave it up here in meta. So when I look at the fighters, I should have made this more clear in my other video, but I do think of it more in a PvP perspective than I do PvE. Most of the other ships are rated against PvE, but since they offer a PvP and a PvE capability, the thing with the arrow is it is a starter ship. Well, it's almost basically it's supposed to be a starter ship. They don't have a starter package for it currently. I think they need to bring that back. However, just be aware that it has a high ceiling. So what that means is if you're a new player and you think, oh, you see the arrows meta, like I can get this ship and I can just kill things. Like that's not quite how that works. You would need to spend some significant time with the arrow to do that, but the ceiling is there. So like you can play with it over a year or for I mean it's a long stint. Like you're not going to do this very quickly. Maybe you are. I don't want to like tell you how good your skill is, but the goal here is the ceiling on what you can do with the arrow is fairly high. It's not fairly high. It is very high. You can kill most other things. Now, other things have higher firepower, and so the odds of you winning requires mistakes on the other person's part. So, anyways, it is S tier and meta. It's just, and they are retuning it a little bit. I think it got a bit of a nerf actually this patch. Like it got tuned down a little bit. But yeah, the skill skilling is there to make it much better than it is out of the box. But I just want to set expectations that even though it is a really good fighter, you are also required to be very good to make it very good. Anyways, moving on. Asgard. I was didn't put this Taurus in S tier. I'm actually gonna do that with this one. So I was a little rude with the other ones. I probably should have moved them all up a tier more or less. But the Asgard here with RSI, I probably should have maybe I would have ranked that a little bit differently. But the Asgard, I almost want to put it in Excels. But if you start to see new ships, it's a mini carrier, which I think is maybe a little undervalued. So you can take a golem out now that the golem's for sale in game. That's a big grab there. Now we have the RSI Salvager that's now out. Obviously, you have to pledge that one to have access to it. But if you wanted to just try this out, they're all free to rent. So right now, as of today, you can rent the Asgard, you can rent the new Salvager, and just go out in the verse and do some salvaging if you'd like. And you're not limited by the fuel capability, because not only is this a fairly decent, just general PVE ship, but you can the utility of it is good where you can actually put things in it as a mini carrier. So not all ships will fit. I mean, it's very few ships that'll actually get in there, but the ones that can, it's a big capability piece. So even the next ship, the C8R, will fit in there. And I'm going to put this one in Excels. So I don't think this one is as good as the Nursa. This is a case where the Nursa is just it fits in more vehicles, but the fun of having the C8R is if you take it out in something like an Asgard, if the Asgard dies, you're not stuck wherever you are in space. You can actually just open up the Asgard and fly out in the C8R. So, in PCs and stuff, when they kill you, they usually stop shooting at your ship if it's not full death. So it's just part of their programming. So if you're in an Asgard trying to do bounty hunting or something and they happen to kill you, then you can just open up the rear and then leave in your C8R and go get a different ship. I mean, you can keep fighting if you want. That's on you. But I think it excels because it just doesn't fit in as many ships. You can't put it in a Taurus or other things that a Nurse can typically fit in. I'd like to put it in meta. I mean, this is my favorite ship. This is actually the ship I used as a starter. I picked up, I think it was Aurora or a Mustang, and I instantly CC'd it up to a C8R. So bunker running, any FPS gameplay, this is going to be, so if you're interested in FPS gameplay at all, this is a great little ship to have, and it's fairly cheap to buy in game as well. So it's definitely a big win. The C8 is average. You can actually do quite a bit with this as well. Like you can put seats in here to make it a little mini drop ship. So I just don't think it's good enough to be excels because I mean, it doesn't have the damage or anything. It's a very niche, just it's an average starter ship, right? So people you can get access to it from that perspective, and people get it with the Carrick and stuff like that. But it's just something that is not. It doesn't stand out in any way, shape, or form in my eyes. Carrick, this hurts, but it is currently underperforming. It's comparable to things like if you look at itself and the TAC. I think the TAC is just unfortunately a better ship, minus the fact that this has a tier 2 medbed. So this medbed will spawn at farther ranges. It's just from a how it stands up, like its health is way too low. Without the armor, I think they need to boost the health for a limited time until they come out with armor or something. But it's scuffed. Like I don't know what's going on here with the Carrick, but it needs love. It did get some love this year. It got the cargo rework or cargo pods rework allows it to actually be usable. Whereas it wasn't usable before. They put the shielding in and stuff. Like they've done some things with it because they've been working on Anvil ships. But as far as making it a usable ship, it's painful. But right now it underperforms. And you take it into engineering, it's the same story. It just gets wrecked when engineering comes out. It's fun to repair it, but that's not exactly the fun you want to have when you're out trying to do things. Is like, oh boy, I get to repair the ship because it's otherwise terrible. So moving on. F7A, I'll put this on Excels. I haven't had a lot of experience with the F7A because I just don't have access to it. It's going to be the same story with the other one. But overall, it's just a interesting ship. Now, as we move in here with the Crucible, this is going to be our first concept ship. And I mean, I think this is a great concept. So if you want, I definitely recommend getting access to it. It's one of those things where we don't know what the final release price will be, of course, and we don't know its full capabilities. I think it's easily going to be one of those ships they're going to have to rework. It's a whopping $10 away from getting a Gemini. So if you wanted to maybe get I would definitely get some CCUs for this if you're interested in it at all. I would still get things for it. I would still pick up CCUs regardless if you're super interested in it, just because it'll be good for CCU once it comes out of concept. But I'd put those in buyback because unfortunately there's no sign at all that this will be coming out anytime soon. I think that's in the back of their mind to work on, but it's not something that we have any hints of it coming out in any way, shape, or form. Currently it's 350, so it matches the Asgard and stuff like that, but the Gemini is the closest to that. So if you want to spend the $10 for a CCU, I would definitely put that in. I would try to put that in today if you're interested, or today or onwards, right? And before the end of the show, I would definitely pick up a couple CCUs for this. It seems like a great ship. It's just something that they'll have to probably release as a reconcepting before they actually send it out. But it's I think great capabilities here. I'm looking forward to it, but we just don't know much. Another Hornet here. All of these other ones I'm going to largely put in average. So actually, I think this is, so it's hard to tell from the footage. That's not the Super Hornet. Okay. So just another Hornet here. I'm going to grab the others, including the Ghost. So here, I'm going to put all the other F7As, or F7s. These are the Mark 1s, so they do differ, even the Super Hornet. I'll put these on average. So we have, this looks to be, one of these is the F7C, one's the Ghost, one is the Tracker. This might be the Tracker because I can't see the disc. Anyways, you have a number of Hornets here. We also have the Wildfire. Where's that at? Here. So we have all of these Hornets, the original Hornets. These are all Mark 1s. You can't actually see CCUs to these anymore. You either have them or you don't. This, I think, is the Heartseeker. They're all average. There's not anything that stands out with those. I think if they intercept tune these, they could actually go to potentially excel because they actually have the exact same DPS as the Buck. But if you look at the Buck is actually interceptor tuned, which makes it more exciting from a PPE perspective and a PvP perspective. And you can get out of fights, you can engage and disengage in fights at your own terms. Whereas with these, they don't have that capability. So they're unfortunately they're barely average at this point because the DPS is down and they're just not as good as they could be. So here we are with the Ghost Mark II. So these are the Mark II Hornets. I think I'll do all these together before moving on. So the Ghost, I actually put. I'm trying to decide where to put the other Hornets because it needs to be the next. It needs to be the next tier up. I think I'll just put it in Excels. It's one of those things where you actually don't need the cap. Now it's hard to describe this if you're a newer player, but what happens with the Hornets is there's these little middle section here. You can put a turret in there. You can have a different cap. That different cap that they have allows them for extended capabilities. So in this case, the Ghost has a cap that allows it to be more stealthy. However, that doesn't currently work correctly in game, so it's just stealthier all the time. So if you want to put bigger guns on this, which you can, at that point you just have a more up-gun stealthy Hornet. So compared to the other Hornets, it's actually a very good ship. It's not so stealthy that it's like Aegis, Saber, or Firebird, or it doesn't have the same kind of stealth profile as the Talon and the other stealthy type ships. But it's stealthy enough that you can get in there, get going with combat without the NPCs really knowing. So from a PvE perspective, it's better. From a PvP perspective, it's still just about the same as other Ghosts. Or the other Hornets, Mark IIs. They're just not gonna know that you're in a Ghost until it just takes them a little more time to find you. But it's not going to be a standout once they actually see you. Gladiator. I'm going to put I need to do the other Hornets, sorry. So the F7C, I'm definitely going to put in Excel average. I'm just going to put them higher than the original Hornets here. F7C just has extra storage. It's the baseline Hornet, but you can the other components and stuff are sold in game now, so you can definitely make it better. I will put the Super Hornet in Excels as well. It's similar to the F7A. So we'll do the Super Hornet and the F7A together. Sorry, this must be, no. Where is my F7A? One of these must be the F7A, and I just couldn't see it. We'll say it's this one. No, this is the old F7A. Sorry, this is the F7A Mark 1. This is the F7A Mark 2. So I'll leave this in Excels. So it goes something like this. Actually, this needs to come down here. So the F7A, then there's the Super Hornet. The F7A is similar to the Super Hornet in firepower, but the the Super Hornet has a little less mobility, but it's not super noticeable. I mean, it's noticeable when you're dying, but it's not something that, you can't get the F7A from the store. It's one of those ships you can't get if you didn't already have. All right, sorry, I had to pause there for a minute. Luminous. Allergies are out of hand right now. So the Super Hornet and the F7A again are strong Mark IIs. But the F7A you cannot buy in game, or you can't buy it in game or out of game. So you either have it or you don't, because there was a mission that was tied to it over a year ago now. Even I don't have it. It's not something I finished up, and I thought they would just do again, maybe annually, but they haven't. So it's a big miss on my part. One of the biggest misses since playing this game. Super Hornet though is accessible. It's for sale now today, and definitely if you're interested in the Hornet series at all, it's going to be a good pickup. Of the Hornets, it's the best one you can probably buy if you're interested in the Mark II at all. That other Ghost again doesn't really. I think it's up to you. You could also get the Ghost if you want to save a bit of money. Maybe try that out. I would try them both out as rentals if you're interested in them at all. The Tracker. I like the Tracker personally a lot more. I'm going to put it higher than the regular Ghost. I just like it. I don't know why. I think that's the radar dome and that's the appeal of what it could do. It's just, it doesn't do any of that right now. So there's no standout feature from it. I like it so much. I even leave the tracker on the tracker dome, and I intentionally, it's less powerful that way. I should be swapping it out for a turret to make it stronger, and I just don't. I like having the dome on there. So for me, it's more of an appeal type thing, more so than its actual capabilities from that perspective. But they're all fairly average. They've been nerfed pretty heavily with their mobility, so they just have a lot of guns. But if something gets on it, that's, especially from a PvP perspective, you don't typically see them too often in PvP, except for maybe team fights where they can do a lot of damage. But from a PvP solo perspective, they're going to usually get shot down by Gladiuses or other fighters that have more ability. They can just easily kill you, even if it takes them longer to kill you than it would have taken you to kill them. But if you're more skilled than the other person, then they're easily able to kill stuff quickly. Gladiator. This unfortunately is average. I almost want to put it underperforming, to be honest, but we'll put it in average. I have to put it behind the regular Mark IIs. So this is a ship that it's best to show because people want to see paints on it. People like this ship more than CIG gives it credit for, and although they've recently kind of buffed it a bit, even just giving access to the Tides 3 turret on the top for the gunner would be a nice buff, but it needs a bit more mobility for what it can do as a small bomber. It also needs bombs. Right now, it can only work with torps. It is one of the few ships that's actually called a bomber, yet has no bombs. So it needs bomb racks. It needs probably a bit more speed mobility, similar. Might as well make it the same. I'd honestly like to have its more modularity on par with the Mark II. I'd rather they just make all the Mark II turrets and stuff fit into this ship and remove that kind of radar dome. I like the radar dome as well, but might as well remove that, remove the turret on top, and just have it work with the Super Hornet type stuff. And give it the same kind of guns as the Hornet series. I get it, it's not a Hornet, but it's still with Anvil. I think that's the way to make this better. And give it the same mobility as the Hornets. Might as well. Otherwise, the gun complement is very similar to them. It's just you have missiles and stuff like that, which isn't a big deal these days because the missiles have been fairly retuned a bit, so they're not super strong. I'm not saying they're bad. It's just when you get into actual fight, you're not going to be able to have an ability to use missiles because the range is just too high from being able to use them in a reasonable combat distance, except for maybe the size ones. But even then, you don't want to be locking missiles at a very short range like that when you should just be putting in DPS with your guns. So anyways, Gladiator I think needs some additional love and then give it the capabilities they said it would have when it was going to be released. So the Hawk I'll actually put in meta. It is more of a meta type ship. The EMP, the damage, now it doesn't move as well as something like the Arrow or the Gladius, but it is tanky enough. It does have quite a few guns on it. It's got 4 size 2s, a couple size 1s. Maybe it should just be going Excel. I might be giving it too much credit here, but from a perspective of its capabilities, they're there. The ceiling is not as high as something like the Arrow, but it's a good ship, and because it has the EMP as well, that adds a bit of power to it. Because it used to be bugged a couple. I don't know if it's still bugged right now, but the EMP used to do twice the damage on it. It basically was like EMPing twice in a row. It was just a challenge with it, but I don't know if it's like that anymore. But it is something that it's in the right hands. It's definitely a good, powerful ship currently, which is good to see. Whereas before, I would have said it was almost like maybe underperforms before, because it's a big ship. It doesn't look too big from this picture, but it's a fairly large ship. I don't say it's large, but for a light fighter, it's on the bigger side of the light fighters. With a Hurricane, I'm actually going to put this in Excels as well. And I'll put it above the other ones. So this one is, I don't use this one a lot, to be honest, but for those people that do use it and are good at PvP, and it's also going to be equally as good at PvE, and if you fight up against one in an NPC, you'll also notice it's strong, because the turret up top is a lot of DPS. It's quad size 3, and then it's got 2 size 4s for the pilot alone. So solo, it's not very good, but if you have a turret gunner, much like the Scorpius, it is very good. I just don't think it's quite as good as a Scorpius because it's not interceptor tuned. But in the right hands, it can be. I mean, it definitely can kill a Scorpius as well. So in the right hands, this Hurricane is very strong. Almost meta. It's just it's tanky. It's just not, because of the interceptor tuning not being there. You can't disengage from a fight as easily as you'd like. People can run it down if they have a high enough skill as well. But it is a really good ship, so that's why it is up there in Excels. Legionnaire, another concept ship. I don't know if I want to put. I'm not going to put this in production. I'd like to put this in production because it is supposedly the ship is done as of last year. They just aren't releasing it because they're waiting for hacking gameplay. So, but I don't want to put in production to you think it's like coming, because the only holdup of this one is hacking. So supposedly the ship is done, but they don't have it out. Legionnaire is something I'm very excited for. I wish it wasn't as tall. That way it can fit in smaller ships. But yeah, it's good to see this ship, and I'd like to see it in the game. The Liberator is our first production ship, and it looks like it's going to be our only one, unfortunately. I'm glad to see this is being worked on. This is something a lot of people want. It's a nice carrier, and if you're taking a fight around in Pyro and Nyx, you'll notice you run out of fuel pretty quickly, and so having something like the Liberator is a good way to kind of fix that issue, mixed with if you wanted to do mining. Currently, if you go out, unless you have a bigger ship like an Idris or something, if you want to do mining and or salvaging and just kind of be out in the belt, you have to have a ship that can fit those, and there's not a lot of ships that can actually fit those. C2 probably could. So C2, you can now get the salvage vehicle, and you can get the new salvation as well as the golem in there. So the Liberator, it'll be similar to that, except you'll also have other vehicles. So if you do something like that with a C2, I don't know if there's enough room for a Nursa, but you can have a Nursa, multiple Nursas, so a couple spawn beds. You can have a Salvation and Golem. You just go out into the mining belt and just go do industrial stuff if you wanted to. So the Liberator being a nice mini carrier that's more price accessible than the current carriers is It's something a lot of people are looking forward to, especially with the carry gameplay. I imagine it'll also have that refuel and rearm capability. We don't know about repairs. Repairs would be nice too, at least with some ships. But I think the Q&A did mention repairs would be something you'd have to do yourself and not something the ship is meant to do. But yeah, I'm looking forward to this. I would definitely pick up a CCU for it if you're interested in it at all. I would definitely hold some of now. I wouldn't hold them necessarily today. You can put them in your buyback if you'd like. You should be able to use some buyback tokens next year to pick them back up. Or if you want to hold on to them, that's fine too. But I expect this to be a year out at least. But we'll see. They could surprise us and bring it out with Fleet Week. That would be great. We'll have to start knowing. We'll know more as the monthly reports come out next year, and we'll get a better idea of how quickly it's being put together. But as of right now, it's really just in early stages of them. They're rethinking what they originally wanted to do with it. That's essentially what's kind of happening there. Paladin. Unfortunately, it's more of an average. I will put it in Excels because I think it's similar to the story of the Hurricane in the right hands, but it's a bigger ship and it's slow. If you have two people, it's okay. It's good. I don't want to undersell it because it is a good ship. It's just you have to be good at turrets because right now you have to change turret modes in order to really get the turret to work the way you want it to using Alt G. Um, you can't just be a new player, and typically it'll be okay in PvE perspective, but even then, if you fight something that you a little more bigger than you've chewed off more than you can actually handle, you'll know it because they'll easily kill you because the Paladin, it doesn't have enough flares, it doesn't, like, there's not enough countermeasures on it. It's just, and I love the interior and stuff. The problem is I like the vibe of the ship, and I'm looking forward to maybe get even a bit more tuning to make it a little more offensive, but it's not like it's meta or anything that'll stand out. It can be somewhat in the right hands. Like, you can probably you can get killed. You probably have been or can be killed easily by a paladin. It's just, it needs to be kind of in the right hands. I don't want to oversell it and put it in S or XLs or put it high up in the S tier and be like, yeah, this ship, you should buy it. When it really is just, it's not going to do that performance for you. It doesn't have the same kind of Asgard capability of having storage. If you can, once you do kill something, you can't just load it up in your cargo bay. It's a fairly niche ship, and again, I like it a lot. I'm not trying to undersell it, but it almost is average in some way it performs, but it can excel. So it can excel with the right hands if you know what you're doing and you're experienced enough in the game. Metapin. Let me start with the regular Terrapin first. So the regular Terrapin is unfortunately very average. It's underperforming. It's underperforming currently. I think it moves up to average. Maybe even excels when engineering comes out. I had a lot of fun with the engineering. Like the fact that it moves up, it's ready for engineering. It performs very well in engineering. So if this ship dies, you can bring it back to life. It's easy to get all of the components. So from an engineering, but we're talking about today's state of the game. It's underperforming. It doesn't have any major guns. Ooh, average. Okay, the reason it goes average is it's still a good boarding ship. But you typically don't want to board. Like, you can board Idris's. It's got a lot of HP. So if you want to practice low flying, things of that nature, like, you can hit the floor and maybe not die in the Terrapin. It's forgiving because it has all of that HP, but it doesn't stand out in any other way besides the fact that it's a turtle. Like, it's a turtle shell of you to throw that thing around. Not that you should be throwing turtles. But if you did that, you at least, that shell does offer some significant capabilities. Now, the medical Terrapin is the opposite story. I would say it's S tier, but it's S tier as a boarding ship. Boarding the Idrises, boarding the Polaris, 890 if you wanted to. Any other capital ship, or minus, I guess, technically the Reclaimer, I guess, would be a capital ship, but it's a ship that excels at that boarding capability, and because it has that medical bed, it also excels as an FPS runner. So where the C8R falls short from a standpoint of it's great, but it's a much lower cost option. You can get really multiples of these versus this pledge price. But if you can get this ship, it's a very good. Like, you won't be missing out. Taking it to the new Onyx facilities, like, it's a great FPS because it has the tier 2 bed. That is a standout. It has more med gel on it. It has a further range. So even though, med gel wise and spawn wise, it's the same as something like the Cuddy Red. It far exceeds that because that tier 2 gives you longer range and it has the same amount of respawns. So just a lot of versatility here. And again, still great for boarding. It's a meta ship for boarding. It's probably the only one you would actually want to board with because because it fits. B, you can get people in it. And C, it's that tankiness. If they're moving around a bit, it's a little forgiving. It does purple. So that's just a problem with the game though. Valkyrie. Um, I was tempted to put it in underperform, but I'll leave it in average as well. I'm being a little extra friendly here. It has cargo capability. Its DPS is good. It's actually better DPS than the Asgard. It's just it can't carry as much stuff, and its UI and stuff needs love, even more love. They supposedly did some work on it, but I didn't really see that. So, um, yeah, I think they continue to work on the Valkyrie. Would like to see it get even more DP. I don't know. I don't know what it takes to get the Valkyrie up where it needs to be higher up, but I guess leaving an average makes sense because it just is average. You're not going to really prefer to take it out over something like the Asgard unless you just kind of want it at that time. Whereas the Asgard does excel over the Valkyrie and they have a similar look and footprint. I don't want to say it's not a good ship. It is a good ship. It's just if you compare it to something like the Asgard, there's more capabilities and utility there with the Asgard. And the reason why it's an S tier versus the Valkyrie being an average. I hope this was useful for y'all. I intended on doing maybe Drake as well, but again, I've just been too busy playing the game. Aegis, I may try to do that one as well, but hopefully, again, hopefully y'all found this helpful. I hope y'all have been getting a hold of some ships that you're looking forward to, and if not, at least renting them to try out the ships you want to try out. And so today is a good day to do that for Anvil. Appreciate those taking time to like, subscribe. Catch y'all next time. Peace.